She carries a secret that could ruin his legacy, yet the powerful CEO keeps pulling her closer. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. The lights of Hale Tower stretch across the city like a constellation built from steel and ambition, and Aubrey Walsh stands at its base with her breath caught in her throat. The revolving doors reflect her pale face, the worry in her eyes, the second-hand blazer she tried to iron 3 times this morning. It still won't lie flat. Nothing in her life ever really has. She whispers to herself, steadying her grip on the worn strap of her purse. Just 5 minutes. Aubrey, get through 5 minutes. But the elevator ride alone feels like a test. Polished brass walls. Her reflection staring back at her. Tired, careful, pretending she belongs here. At floor 52, the doors glide open with a soft chime. Cold air sweeps toward her, scented faintly of cedar and expensive ink. Jonathan Hale's office is larger than her entire apartment, its glass walls holding the entire skyline hostage. And there he is, Jonathan, standing with his back to her, posture straight, suit tailored so sharply it could cut through silence. His presence shifts the room, even without him turning. Her pulse answers before she does. Ms. Walsh, he says, voice calm, steady, and too controlled. He finally looks at her, eyes a deep storm gray that give nothing away. Not judgment, not curiosity, just intent. Aubrey forces herself not to shrink. She reminds herself that he doesn't know. He can't know. The secret she carries sits like a stone beneath her ribs, one that could crack the foundation of everything he's built, his reputation, his family name, his entire legacy. You asked to see me, she manages, careful to keep her voice even. Jonathan nods once, stepping toward her with a precision that feels almost rehearsed. I don't waste time, Ms. Walsh. So I'll be direct. Her throat tightens. Direct is dangerous. He slides a file. Across the desk. Thick. Sealed. Her name on top. She doesn't touch it. Can't. His gaze rests on her like a weight. Steady, unreadable, and far too close. I know you need help, he says, softer than she expects. And I know you're running out of options. The words cut, not cruelly, but with a truth she's tried to outrun. He doesn't know her secret, but he knows enough. Aubrey steps back, without meaning to. Jonathan steps forward without hesitation, as if pulled by something he refuses to name. I'm offering you a solution, he says quietly. One that protects us both. Her breath stumbles. Protects. Not saves. Not shelters. Protects. It's a choice of words she doesn't understand, yet. But she feels the danger in it. The closeness. The pull. Jonathan Hale, the man whose legacy could collapse if he ever discovered who she really is, keeps moving closer, as if the space between them is something he owns, something he's willing to claim. And Aubrey, foolishly, helplessly, doesn't move away this time. Jonathan waits for her answer, but the room becomes too quiet, too sharp. The sealed file on the desk feels like a warning sign, and Aubrey keeps her hands still at her sides so he will not see them tremble. She knows the moment she touches that folder, everything changes. Jonathan watches her with a stillness that is almost impossible to read, as if he is studying her reactions one breath at a time. She tries to swallow the lump rising in her throat. What kind of solution? She asks, though she is not sure she wants to hear it. Jonathan gestures toward the chairs in front of his desk. It is not quite an invitation and not quite a command, something in between. She sits because her legs feel unsteady, and he rounds the desk to sit across from her, elbows resting lightly on his knees as he leans forward. The distance between them becomes smaller in a way that makes her heart climb into her chest. Your situation is more complicated than a simple financial setback, he says quietly. Your landlord sent a notice. Your mother's treatment bills increased again. Your previous employer refused to give a reference. Hearing her own life summarized in his calm voice feels like standing under a bright light with nowhere to hide. You looked into me, she whispers, not accusing, just stunned. I do my homework, he replies, especially when I am considering an arrangement that impacts my name and my company. The word arrangement lands heavily. Aubrey tries to piece together what he is implying, but he beats her to it. I need someone by my side for a series of public events, board votes, meetings with my family, he says. Someone who appears trustworthy. Grounded. Someone who makes me look. He pauses, searching for a word. She holds her breath. Human, he finishes. It throws her off balance. A powerful CEO needing someone like her to make him appear more human feels impossible. Why me? She asks. You could choose anyone. For a moment, something softer passes through his gray eyes. Because you do not want anything from me, he says. That is rare. If only he knew how untrue that was. Aubrey shifts in her chair, fingers curling inward against her palm. If he discovered her secret, he would never have said those words. All I am asking, Jonathan continues, is that you stand beside me. Publicly. For a limited time. Her pulse flickers. As what? His answer comes without hesitation. As my wife. Aubrey's breath disappears. Her vision narrows for a second, as if the walls of the office pull inward. She stares at him, unsure if he is serious, but Jonathan's expression does not change. There is no humor in it, no irony. Just certainty. This is business, he adds. A contract. A mutually beneficial agreement. The word, wife, sits between them, hot and cold all at once. She thinks of the secret she has kept buried for months, the one mistake that could destroy him if it ever surfaced. Becoming his wife, even on paper, would put her closer to the truth than she has ever dared to be. You do not know me, she whispers. Jonathan leans in slightly, his voice steady. I know enough. And I trust my instincts. She looks down at her hands, noticing how small they appear compared to the polished edge of his desk. The city hums below them, but up here, silence presses in from every side. You would be protected, he says, softer now. You would have stability, privacy, a home. Her chest tightens at the word home. It has been a long time since she felt she had one. She looks up, meeting his eyes. He does not flinch. He does not look away. And in that moment, she realizes something unsettling. Jonathan is not pulling her closer out of weakness or carelessness. He is pulling her closer because he has already decided she belongs in his world. And Aubrey, despite everything, feels the ground shift beneath her as if she might be starting to believe him. For a long moment, Aubrey cannot speak. The word, wife, keeps echoing through her mind, a word she has never been close to, not even in daydreams. Jonathan sits silently across from her, hands loosely clasped, as if he is giving her space to breathe. But his eyes never leave her face. They watch every flicker of doubt, every tremor in her breath. I am not the person you think I am, she finally says. Her voice is soft but steady, a small act of courage she barely feels. Jonathan's expression does not change. If anything, he leans back slightly, as if preparing to hear something important. Then tell me who you are, he replies. Those 4 words strike her harder than anything else he has said. If she tells him the truth, he will walk away. If she hides it, she will eventually destroy everything he is offering. She shakes her head. I cannot. He studies her a moment longer. Not frustrated. Not suspicious. Just observing, the way someone might watch a puzzle they are determined to solve. This arrangement would give you protection, he says. It would give you the chance to rebuild whatever you lost. His voice softens. It would give you a way to breathe again. The kindness in that last sentence almost undoes her. She looks away, her gaze drifting toward the skyline outside his window. From 52 stories up, the city looks calm, almost gentle, as if the chaos below does not reach this high. And what would it give you? She asks quietly. Jonathan answers without hesitation. Stability, trust, and a partner the board cannot question. It sounds logical, practical, but something in his tone feels more human than that. As if there is a piece he is not saying. Aubrey glances at the file again. The one he slid across the desk, the one she still has not touched. What is in that, she asks. The terms, he says. Basic expectations. Legal protections. A timeline. She swallows. How long? 6 months. 6 months. Short enough to pretend. Long enough to ruin him if her secret ever got out. She lifts her eyes to him again. He holds her gaze with a steadiness that borders on unnerving. If something comes out about me, she says slowly, something you did not expect, would it hurt your position? Jonathan's brow lifts just a fraction. Are you asking me hypothetically? I am asking you honestly. He takes a breath, slow and controlled, before answering. My position is always at risk. But I do not ally myself with people who would harm me. Her heart squeezes, because she knows she does not want to harm him. She never meant to. She just got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, with the wrong person, holding the wrong truth. A truth she has been running from ever since. Jonathan stands, smoothing a hand over his tie. Ms. Walsh, this is not a decision you have to make this second. You may take time to think. But then he steps closer, close enough that she feels the quiet gravity he carries with him. However, he adds in a low voice, I do not choose lightly, and I do not retract offers once they are made. The air shifts again, tighter, warmer, more dangerous. Aubrey rises to her feet without meaning to, drawn by something she does not have a name for. Jonathan's eyes flicker briefly to her lips before returning to her eyes, a small, almost imperceptible lapse in control that sends her pulse thundering. When you are ready, he murmurs, pick up the file. Then he steps back, releasing her from his focus. Aubrey turns, walking toward the elevator, her heartbeat loud enough to fill the room. But before the doors close, she glances back. Jonathan is still watching her, not with impatience or doubt, but with something far more unsettling. Certainty. The kind of certainty that makes her feel as if her secret, the one that could ruin everything he has built, is already pulling her closer to him, whether she wants it or not. The elevator carries Aubrey downward in a smooth glide, but her heartbeat feels uneven, skipping every few seconds as if trying to warn her of something she cannot name. By the time she reaches the lobby, the world seems too bright, too busy, the marble floors reflecting flashes of people, who all seem to know where they are going. She steps outside, the afternoon air brushing her face with a coolness that should calm her, but it does not. She reaches the sidewalk before she realizes her hands are shaking. She does not know if it is from fear or the strange steady pull Jonathan Hale has on her. She tries to walk it off, her steps quickening past the line of cars and the blur of pedestrians. But her mind keeps circling back to his voice and the certainty in his eyes. When she finally reaches her apartment building, she hesitates before going inside. The structure is old, the brick faded, the stair rail wobbly under her touch. Home, she thinks, but the word feels fragile. Inside, the narrow hallway smells faintly of laundry detergent and warm dust. She closes the apartment door behind her, pressing her back against it. Her mother's soft breathing comes from the bedroom down the hall, a reminder of why she has been fighting so hard to hold her life together. Aubrey sets her purse down, rubbing her temples. The file Jonathan mentioned seems to echo in the back of her mind, even though she did not bring it with her. She knows it is still sitting on his desk, waiting. Her phone buzzes. It is a message from the clinic, a reminder about her mother's next appointment, and a note about updated costs. She closes her eyes, exhaling slowly. The timing feels cruel. She moves to the small kitchen, pours a glass of water, and leans her elbows on the counter. She knows what Jonathan's offer means. A way out. A way to stabilize her mother's care. A way to fix parts of her life she never thought she could repair. But it also means stepping directly into the line of fire. 6 months pretending to be the wife of a man who cannot afford any scandal. A man whose entire reputation depends on control and precision. A man who trusts her without knowing she carries a truth heavy enough to crack the floor beneath them both. A soft knock pulls her from her thoughts. She stiffens. No one comes here unannounced. She opens the door a little, expecting a neighbor. Instead, a well-dressed woman stands there, holding a sleek black folder and wearing an expression of polite efficiency. Ms. Walsh, the woman, asks. Aubrey nods slowly. I am Claire, the woman says. Mr. Hale asked me to deliver something to you. Aubrey's stomach tightens. Claire hands her the folder. It is the same kind of folder she saw in Jonathan's office. Claire offers a small, professional smile. He said you should have time to look it over in a place that feels comfortable to you. If you have questions, there is a number inside. Aubrey barely manages a thank you before Claire leaves with quiet, measured steps. Aubrey closes the door and stares at the folder in her hands. This time she does not set it aside. She carries it to the kitchen table and sits, the wood creaking under her weight. For a long moment, she just touches the edge of the folder, her fingers tracing the smooth surface. Then she opens it. Inside are neatly typed terms, clear expectations, timelines, protections for both parties. Everything is structured, rational, fair. Except for one line near the bottom. It reads, Mrs. Aubrey Hale will attend all public and private engagements as agreed. Seeing her name beside his takes the air from her chest. It feels too real, too close, too dangerous. And yet, as she stares at the papers, her pulse does not race from fear alone. There is something else. A pull she cannot deny. The same pull she felt when Jonathan looked at her, as if he already knew she would say yes. For a long time, Aubrey just sits there, staring at the papers spread neatly across her kitchen table. The sunlight from the small window drifts across the page, turning the black ink into something that feels heavier than it should. Each line, each clause, each clean stroke of Jonathan's legal team carries a kind of finality she is not sure she is ready for. Her mother coughs softly in the next room, a quiet reminder of the reality she has been juggling for months. Medical costs that grow faster than her paychecks. A landlord who has run out of patience. A future closing in far too quickly. Aubrey closes the folder, pressing her palms against it. She tries to imagine what saying yes would feel like. What it would look like to walk into a room beside Jonathan Hale, pretending to be the wife of a man whose world is nothing like hers. She tries to imagine the weight of being seen, photographed, analyzed. She tries to imagine pretending for 6 months that she belongs in his life. But the part that scares her most is not the pretending. It is the possibility that she may not be pretending at all after a while. Her phone buzzes again. Another reminder. Another cost. Another push toward a decision she does not feel ready to make. Before she can overthink it, she grabs her purse, slips the folder inside, and heads out the door. The city air is brisk, brushing against her face as she walks. The bus ride to Hale Tower feels shorter this time, or maybe her mind is too full to measure distance. When she steps into the lobby, she feels the same ripple of awe she felt earlier. Glass walls, polished floors, people moving with purpose. She takes a breath and walks toward the private elevator. The security guard recognizes her from earlier and nods, pressing the button that grants access to the top floors. The elevator rises quickly, each floor number lighting up like a countdown. When the doors open, she steps into the quiet corridor. Jonathan's office door is partially open, and she hears his voice inside, low and even. He is on a call. She hesitates, but something pulls her forward. She knocks once. His voice stops. Come in, he calls. She opens the door slowly. Jonathan stands near the window, phone in hand. When he sees her, something in his posture shifts. Not surprise. Something subtler. He ends the call with a calm final sentence and slips the phone into his pocket. Ms. Walsh, he says, but the formal address cannot hide the way his eyes take her in, noting the uncertainty, the determination, and the folder she is holding. You came back. Aubrey exhales a breath she did not realize she was holding. I need to understand something, she says, stepping closer. This contract, what happens if either of us wants to end it early? Jonathan watches her carefully. If you wanted to leave, he says, you could. We would dissolve the agreement privately. And if you wanted to end it, she asks. Jonathan's jaw tightens slightly, as if the idea does not sit well with him. I do not start agreements I do not intend to honor, he replies. If you sign, I will see it through. His voice is steady, but there is something underneath it, some quiet insistence she cannot ignore. Aubrey looks down at the folder, tracing her thumb over the corner. And this becomes real, she murmurs. Public. Visible. Yes, he says. She lifts her gaze to meet his. People will talk. He steps closer, close enough that she feels the gravity of him again. Let them talk, he says quietly. You would not be alone in any of it. Her breath catches. The sincerity in his voice hits deeper than she expects. Aubrey, he says, her name gentle in his tone. If you say yes, you will not be stepping into this alone. You will have my support. Fully. She swallows, her hands tightening around the folder. The secret she carries presses heavily against her chest. It could break this man. It could break both of them. And yet, standing here, with him watching her with that unwavering certainty, she feels something she has not felt in a long time. Hope. Jonathan holds her gaze, waiting, and Aubrey realizes she has already made her decision long before she found the courage to walk back into his office. Aubrey stands there in front of him, the weight of her decision pressing into her ribs. but something about Jonathan's steady gaze eases the sharpest edges. She holds the folder with both hands, feeling the faint tremble in her fingers. "If I sign this," she says softly, "my life changes." Jonathan nods once, his expression unreadable but his voice calm. "Yes, but change does not mean chaos, Aubrey. It can mean stability. It can mean a foundation." The word foundation aches in her chest. Her life has not had one in a long time. She takes a slow breath, opens the folder, and signs her name with a pen that feels too elegant for her hand. When the pen lifts from the page, there is a stillness in the air, as if the city outside pauses for a heartbeat. Jonathan reaches for the folder, his fingers brushing hers for the briefest moment. The touch is accidental, but it sends a quiet shiver through her. "It is done," he says, voice lower than before. She nods, unsure how to respond, unsure how to feel. Part of her expected relief. Instead, she feels a strange blend of fear, curiosity, and something she cannot name. Jonathan closes the folder and sets it carefully on his desk, as if it carries something precious. He looks back at her. "The first event is tonight," he says. "A small gathering, nothing overwhelming. It will give you time to adjust." Aubrey stiffens. "Tonight?" "Yes," he replies gently. "But it will be manageable. Claire will assist you with everything you need." She exhales slowly, pressing a hand to her stomach. "I do not have anything appropriate to wear." "I expected that," he says, not unkindly. "A wardrobe has already been prepared. Claire will take you to it." Aubrey blinks. "Already?" Jonathan meets her eyes, and for a moment, she sees something very human behind the composed exterior. "I had a feeling you would return," he says simply. The room feels warmer suddenly, the air thicker. She looks away, unable to hold his gaze without feeling too much. Claire appears at the door with perfect timing. "Everything is ready, Mr. Hale." Jonathan nods once. "Take her to the suite." As Aubrey follows Claire out, she can feel his eyes on her back, but she does not turn around. She is afraid she might get caught in the weight of that look. The private elevator carries her and Claire to one of the upper floors, where a temporary suite has been arranged. Inside, the room is filled with soft light, warm wood floors, and an array of dresses carefully displayed on a rack. Claire gives her space, quietly adjusting accessories and shoes. Aubrey steps toward the dresses, her hand brushing the fabric of a midnight blue gown. It feels impossibly soft, luxurious, not meant for someone like her. "You will look beautiful in any of these," Claire says with a soft smile. "Mr. Hale wanted pieces that matched your style." Aubrey's breath catches. "He does not know my style." "Perhaps he noticed more than you realized," Claire replies. Aubrey chooses the blue gown, not because it is the grandest, but because it feels like something she might have worn in another life, a life where she was not running from a truth she fears will one day surface. As she gets ready, Claire styles her hair with a gentle touch, pinning soft waves behind her ear. Aubrey studies her reflection, barely recognizing herself. She looks steady, composed, like someone who could stand beside a man like Jonathan without disappearing. When she finally steps out of the suite, Jonathan is waiting in the hallway, dressed in a tailored suit that fits him with effortless precision. His eyes lift the second he hears her footsteps. For the first time since she met him, his breath visibly stills. It is only for a second, but she sees it, and that tiny shift, that quiet moment of awe, settles deep in her chest, warming something she thought had long gone cold. For a moment, neither of them speaks. The hallway is quiet, softened by warm lighting, but Aubrey feels the air shift the instant Jonathan's eyes meet hers. His gaze moves slowly, almost carefully, taking in the gown, the subtle wave of her hair, the calm she tries to hold on her face. There is no judgment in his expression, no appraisal, just something restrained and unexpected, as if he is seeing her for the first time and refusing to let the reaction show fully. "You look," he begins, then stops, clearing his throat lightly. "You look very elegant, Aubrey." The simplicity of the compliment lands deeper than anything lavish might have. She lowers her eyes for a second, her voice a soft reply. "Thank you." Jonathan offers his arm with a quiet, steady gesture. "Shall we?" She hesitates only long enough to gather her breath before placing her hand on his arm. His suit fabric is smooth beneath her fingers, but it is the warmth of his presence that steadies her. They walk toward the private elevator, and she notices that his steps slow just enough to match her pace. Downstairs, a sleek black sedan waits for them. The driver opens the door, and Jonathan gestures for her to enter first. When he joins her inside, the space feels smaller than it should, the air filled with a quiet awareness she cannot ignore. The ride is brief, the city lights passing in soft streaks of gold and white. Aubrey tries to focus on her breathing, on keeping her thoughts steady. But she cannot stop her mind from replaying the way Jonathan looked at her in the hallway, as if something inside him had shifted. When they arrive at the event venue, the driver opens the door, and Aubrey steps out into a soft buzz of conversation and warm lighting spilling from the entrance. She feels her pulse climb. The building is elegant, filled with people who move with practiced grace, their laughter floating through the evening air. Jonathan joins her at her side, adjusting his cufflink before offering her his arm again. "Remember," he says gently, "you are not alone in this. I am right beside you." The reassurance steadies her more than she expected. They enter together. Heads turn almost immediately. Aubrey feels the weight of dozens of eyes, not in a hostile way, but with curiosity. She feels her breath falter for half a second before Jonathan leans slightly closer and says in a low, calm voice, "Just breathe." She does. And when she exhales, the room feels less intimidating. A woman in a silver dress approaches with a bright, practiced smile. "Jonathan, it has been too long," she says, touching his arm lightly before turning her attention to Aubrey. "And who is this lovely woman?" Jonathan's hand settles softly at the small of Aubrey's back. The touch is light, polite, nothing more, but the warmth of it grounds her. "This is my wife," he says calmly. The word sends a ripple through Aubrey's chest. Wife. Hearing him say it aloud feels different than reading it on paper. The woman raises her brows with pleasant surprise. "Well, congratulations. She is absolutely stunning." Aubrey manages a small smile, her voice steady. "Thank you. It is a pleasure to meet you." As the woman moves on, Aubrey exhales a tiny breath she did not know she was holding. Jonathan leans close enough for only her to hear. "You handled that perfectly." His approval feels warmer than the chandelier light above them. Most of the evening passes that way. Introductions, polite conversation, soft glances that linger a moment too long. And each time someone questions who she is, Jonathan answers without hesitation, steady and unwavering. "My wife." The words begin to feel less like a performance and more like a strange, fragile shelter she is stepping into. Near the end of the night, Aubrey drifts to the edge of the room for a moment of quiet. Jonathan joins her, his voice soft. "How are you holding up?" She looks at him, at the man everyone sees as unshakable. "Better than I expected," she admits. "Because of you." Something flickers in his eyes, soft, fleeting, but unmistakable. And in that moment, surrounded by people who believe every word of their facade, Aubrey feels the line between pretend and real blur in a way she is not sure she is ready for. The music softens as the night stretches on, the kind of warm instrumental melody that makes conversations blend into a gentle hum. Aubrey stands beside Jonathan, feeling the subtle nearness of him, the way he tilts his head slightly whenever she speaks to someone, as if he wants to catch every word. It feels strangely natural, too natural for something that is supposed to be scripted. When the event finally begins to thin out and guests drift toward the exit, Jonathan guides her toward a quieter hallway lined with tall windows overlooking the city. The view is stunning, a sweep of lights that looks almost unreal. Aubrey lets out a slow breath. "That was a lot," she murmurs. "You managed it with grace," Jonathan says, and there is no performance in his voice now. No polite tone meant for audiences. Just sincerity. She looks out the window again, the glow of the skyline reflecting faintly in the glass. "People believed it," she whispers. "They really believed I was your wife." Jonathan steps closer, not touching her, but near enough that she feels the quiet pull of his presence. "They believed what they saw," he says. "A woman who carries herself with honesty. Someone who stands beside me with calm and confidence." She turns her head slightly. "You make it sound like I belong here." He holds her gaze, and something unguarded flickers in his eyes. "You did tonight." The words land deeper than she expects, warming a place inside her she has kept locked for a long time. Before she can respond, footsteps echo lightly from the end of the hallway. Elliot Hale approaches, impeccably dressed, but carrying an air of smug confidence that does not match the gentleness of the evening. Aubrey has only heard Jonathan mention him briefly, but something about the sharpness in Elliot's smile tells her enough. Well, Elliot says, drawing out the word as his gaze flicks between them. It seems the rumors are true. Jonathan's jaw tightens, almost imperceptibly. Elliot, he says, polite but cool. I did not expect to see you here. I did not expect to see you with a wife. Elliot replies, his tone edged with something too pointed to be friendly. He turns to Aubrey, offering a smile that feels disingenuous. Elliot Hale. I am Jonathan's cousin. Aubrey offers a polite nod. Aubrey. Hey. Pleasure, he says, though his eyes linger on her a moment too long. You have caused quite a stir tonight. Jonathan steps slightly closer to her, a subtle gesture of protection. Aubrey handled herself well, he says. Something in Elliot's gaze sharpens, like he is assessing a puzzle piece that does not fit the way he expects. I am sure she did, he replies, though I cannot help wondering where she came from so suddenly. The implication is unmistakable. Aubrey's breath catches, but before she can respond, Jonathan's voice cuts through with quiet authority. Watch your tone, Elliot, he says. She deserves your respect. Elliot lifts his hands in a mock gesture of surrender. Just making conversation. After all, family should get to know family. He gives Aubrey one last lingering glance before nodding and walking away. The moment he is gone, Aubrey presses a hand lightly against her stomach, steadying her breath. He does not like me, she whispers. Elliot does not like anyone who is not useful to him, Jonathan replies. But that is not your concern. She turns to him. It should be. I am tied to you now. Anything I do reflects on you. He studies her, his voice softening. You did nothing wrong tonight. Elliot's suspicion is his own issue, not yours. She tries to believe him, but the knot in her chest tightens. Elliot's stare had felt too searching, too knowing, as if he could sense the secret she carried. Jonathan takes a step closer, his tone low and steady. Aubrey, listen to me. Tonight, you stood beside me with confidence. No one questioned you except someone who questions everything. His eyes meet hers with a quiet intensity. I trust you. That is what matters. The words make her breath catch. Trust. Such a simple word, but one she has not felt in a long time. And hearing it from him, spoken without hesitation, makes the weight of her hidden truth feel heavier than ever. Because trust is something she has not earned, and she fears she may not deserve it, not once the truth finally reaches him. As the last of the guests drift out of the venue, Jonathan guides Aubrey toward the exit with a steadying hand at her back. The night air outside is cooler than before, carrying the faint scent of the nearby river. She inhales slowly, letting the calm settle over her, but the lingering echo of Elliot's pointed stare refuses to fade. Jonathan notices her quietness. You are thinking too hard, he says gently. I can almost hear it. She lets out a soft breath. Elliot is suspicious, and he is right to be. I came out of nowhere. You came when I needed someone I could rely on, Jonathan replies. That is enough for me. She wants to believe him, but the truth weighs heavily on her chest, a truth that could unravel everything between them if it ever surfaced. Before she can say more, the car pulls up. Inside the dim, warm-lit interior, silence settles like a fragile thread between them. It is not uncomfortable, but intimate in a way that tightens her breath. Jonathan watches the passing streetlights for a moment before turning to her. You were remarkable tonight, he says softly. I know you were nervous, but you carried yourself with such grace. Aubrey feels her cheeks warm. I just followed your lead. No, he says, shaking his head slightly. You held your own. The sincerity in his voice makes her chest tighten with something she is not ready to name. The car slows as they approach the private entrance to Hale Tower. Once inside, Jonathan walks with her toward the elevator. His steps are slower now, thoughtful, as if he is searching for the right words. When the doors close, sealing them in the quiet space, he speaks again, his voice lower. Aubrey, earlier, when you said people believed you belonged beside me tonight. She looks up, surprised by the softness in his expression. You did, he continues. In every way that mattered. A flutter of emotion rises in her, unexpected and warm. She grips her clutch tighter, trying to steady herself. Jonathan, she begins, her voice unsteady. There is something I should. The elevator chimes, interrupting her. The doors slide open to the private suite floor, and she exhales shakily, her words dissolving into silence. They walk down the hallway together, but the air feels different now, heavier, filled with something unnamed. At her door, she turns to face him. The soft glow of the hallway light casts a gentle warmth over his features. He looks less like the unshakable CEO the world sees, and more like a man standing on the edge of something uncertain. "Thank you," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "For tonight. For everything." "There is nothing to thank me for," he replies quietly. "You were extraordinary." She hesitates, sensing he is not finished. Jonathan's gaze drifts to her lips for the briefest second before he forces himself to look back into her eyes. "Aubrey," he says, and her name sounds different when he says it like this. Careful, weighted, almost tender. This arrangement, it is not as simple as I expected. Her heart stumbles. "What do you mean?" He exhales slowly, the kind of breath someone takes when they are admitting a truth they should not. "Tonight, I realized something. No matter how much we call this a contract, none of it felt false." The words settle between them, warm and dangerous. Aubrey feels the ground shift beneath her feet, the line between pretense and reality dissolving like mist. She wants to speak, to tell him everything, but the secret pressing against her ribs holds her silent. If he knew the truth, he would never look at her this way again. Jonathan steps back slightly, as if giving her room to breathe. "Get some rest," he says softly. "Tomorrow will be another long day." She nods, unable to trust her voice. As he turns to leave, she watches him walk down the hall, the weight of his quiet confession echoing in every step he takes. And for the first time since signing the contract, she feels something she cannot ignore. Fear not of the lie she carries, but of how deeply she is beginning to care for the man she might one day break.